one, and recording with the one and only Dr. Dale Comstock, OGA, Delta Force, Black Ops, Black Belt, dog trainer, and you just tell me got and in the description is the link to his speaking, his performance coaching, as well as his book American Badass, which he came on. Dale was on here for episode 50. This is episode 1285. So Dale's one of the OGs. But you were just telling me you got banned from Twitter. I literally didn't know that until I just checked I said, hey, can you tweet this link? And you said I got banned from Twitter. What? No explanation?
No reason. I didn't even know I got banned because I haven't been on there for a while.
Yeah.
And so I haven't been on there at least a week, and I don't really go on there and say much. I just kind of repost somebody else's things with a comment or something, and pretty careful about not, saying something stupid. But for somebody text me the other day, go, hey man, why'd you get banned off Twitter? I go, huh? I didn't get banned. And I looked, and sure enough, no explanation, nothing. They said, oh, you've been banned permanently from Twitter for violating community rules, but they wouldn't tell me what they were. Didn't send me an email. Didn't do anything.
No,
and I inquired several times. They go, what did I do wrong? And they haven't even responded, man. So everybody talks about how great Twitter is because Elon Musk took over, and I agreed. But you know what? He's still got a bunch of moles in there too, man. Because I know I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything wrong. So I'm very somewhat political, right? Because my position on things. So I make comments that probably the left doesn't like, and I don't care. And somehow that got me banned. But I don't know what I said, and I'm still waiting for a response. But luckily, I don't use Twitter for nothing other than kind of monitoring what's going on in the world and in the community.
Yeah.
But I don't use it for my own promotional stuff or anything like that. So
you probably got a guarantee if they give you no reason. I mean, because I've been banned from a ton of shit, and they're normally always, if they can hit you with a reason, they'll give it for you. For me, it's always like medical misinformation or claiming that the 2020 election was stolen, because it was. But I would imagine that what somebody did for you is somebody probably reported you and just made up some horseshit, like this guy fucking threatened me or something.
Right.
Probably some tranny faggot probably reported you and said this guy is making me want to kill myself. And yeah.
Which I didn't. I don't see it like that.
No, I know you don't. I mean, they probably just project it.
Yeah.
They go, here's somebody comfortable in his own skin. Now I want to kill myself.
Are you on Twitter, or did you get banned also?
I got back on Twitter. I was banned for a couple months. I don't know what. I think I was pretty shit faced, and I just retweeted AOC, and I was like, I don't know, I was like this dumb commie bimbo bitch or something, and they were like, this is hate speech, this is violence, and I was like, I don't think it is, but I was really fucked up when I got banned, so I didn't know why I was banned for like a while. I was banned for like 6 months. Stoley's permanently banned. I mean, listen, man, it's not a bad thing to get banned from Twitter. It's still a fucking cesspool. But
you're right. Look, all these lefties going, gonna get off of Twitter now that Elon Musk. They're still on there, they ain't going nowhere, and they're still spewing their hate, and disinformation and misinformation, and it just never stops, man. These fucking people. There's only one way to fix this, man, and that's a freaking war. That's what's
I've been having you on here for 3 years, and I'm always like, well, I don't know about, and like as time marches on, I'm slowly, grudgingly conceding defeat that you're right. All the Green Berets I interview, they're all right. I don't like it, and legally I don't condone it. I have to say that. But yeah, more and more I'm watching this, I'm like, there's no way this ends without massive bloodshed, and I'll probably be killed because why not? But I'm making peace with that. Like this isn't it. This is going to end when we see what's happening in France, and that's the only way it's going to end is them. And I think somebody tweeted this morning, based on what I don't fucking know, but I guess top French generals are giving Macron 48 hours. They're like, secure the country or we will. That's how I imagine it will kind of come to a head, and all of my military expertise, right? I imagine that's how it will come to a head in the United States in the next 5 years or so. Is we're gonna go right up to the edge of destruction, and then either number one, go through with full self-immolation, two, have violent revolution, which I imagine will balkanize into a series of civil wars. Or three, you're going to have some generals, and maybe not even out of a good place. They just might see their name rising and be like, hey, I can seize control. You know, it might be a power vacuum thing, but you're probably going to have some generals go, yeah, I'm taking control of this shit. And you'll probably have most people go, yeah. I mean, look at France right now. A week ago, if a bunch of generals came out and said we're taking control, no. A bunch of generals coming out now, you have a bunch of people going, you know, I'm not that opposed to it, which itself is a dangerous kind of idea, because then you start wondering, well, do they foment this shit to bring in chaos? Because only in chaos do you accept the hammer of daddy government, right? It's you don't do that on a sunny day. You do it when your country's on fucking fire. And then you wonder, well, what's the end result? This increases government control. Well, who's this benefit? The government. So who started this? Well, there's a good chance it's the government. And I don't know. We can talk about that, or we can talk, because you texted me last night. He just said Singapore ops, and I was like, "What's the topic for the show?" And you just casually said Singapore ops. I was like, "What the fuck was that?"
Talk about that, and we'll talk a little bit about everything, man. So yeah, the France thing, I was kind of catching on to that yesterday, and it's kind of interesting, right? So what's happening in France is what's happened here, right? In the past with, I mean, when you look at who's rioting, okay, who got shot? You know, who got shot and who's pissing and moaning, right? And here they are, right? They're doing the same scenario we were in, right? And yeah, I agree with you. I think that we're all going down the fast track to hell, man. I think it's gonna be less than 5 years.
Really?
Before the election for sure.
Okay.
So you know, it's been way out of control, and people just need to be ready, prepare themselves. This is why I had some of my coaching clients. I had a couple come here for a couple months training with me, you know, because they're actually training not to be a militia, but to actually to survive, man. These guys were wealthy, and they feel like they're going to be targeted, you know, because of their wealth and also, you know, backgrounds and stuff like that. So they're like, I need some skills, I need some training, just because they also see it as an inevitable. It's coming, you know, and but you know, hopefully we're wrong and everything, you know, turns around and goes in the right direction. But I don't see that happening, man. I think we went way too far down the road to go back. And but anyways, so let's talk about. So yeah, I mentioned Singapore. So just kind of give you a little background. A couple things. One, BBC was here in May, and they had filmed a documentary about me. That's going to come out. Now it was supposed to come out next month, but they had to push it to the right until I think October, November. Had to do with slots, times, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
PBS and other stations is going to come out on. So I don't know all the networks, but I know BBC is going to put it out there. Anyways, they came here and they wanted to do an interview on me, particularly talk about you know, my experience in Yemen. You know, what's it like being a mercenary, you know, and it was more than that. Actually, when the crew showed up, the producer showed up, they also brought an investigative journalist with her. And so I recognized the name right away, because she had been trying to hit me up on Twitter or LinkedIn for a couple of years. And she's of Arabic descent. She's a specialist in the area of Yemen. And I kind of sensed a little bit of tension when she showed up, because I wasn't expecting her to show up. And, oh, by the way, we brought this person here with us to interview you. And I just kind of felt things were a little odd, right? And so I was like, all right, be prepared, right? This is going to be probably a little combative. And so we did the interview, and you know, it started out with words like assassin and bombs and stuff like that. And I had to pump the brakes, go, no, we're not talking assassin. We're talking a professional soldier. I don't make bombs. I make explosive charges and devices. Some of them are improvised because they're not in the book. But I had to steer that thing back in the right direction. A lot of questions came up it was obvious that her information was tainted, skewed, or completely wrong about some of the targets, some of the methodologies. And she kind of came in, I think, with some preconceived notions about what what mercenaries are. And so I wanted to correct her and let her know that just because you can call me a mercenary if you want, but don't call me an assassin. I'm a professional soldier. I do work for money. Obviously, why would I go down range and do probably one of the most dangerous jobs in the world for free? No soldier's out there fighting out of principle alone. He's fighting for a paycheck, right? So, and so am I. If I got to go out there and do this, I'm doing it for the right reasons. And and I expect to get paid for the risks I'm going to take, because it's not just about me, it's about my family and etc. So so there's a lot of that going on. I felt like they walked away with probably a different attitude about who I was, am, and the team that I was with, compared to the Wagner group, in Russia. There was a lot of that comparative stuff going on. I said, there's no comparison. The Wagner group is a bunch of literally convicts that were released to become mercenaries, and they're thugs with guns, and that's what they are. And so I said, my team, we're professionals, we're married, we have children, we have moral standards, integrity, ethics, and we're here targeting what we believe are, terrorists, bad guys, and so then I spun into, well, how do you know he's a bad guy, and I'm like, look, the client, the people we were working for gave us their target list based on their intelligence. These guys were bad guys. We also did our due diligence as best as we could with the resources we had. And I said, we all came to the conclusion, yeah, it's a legitimate target. And, but how can you be 100% sure? I said, exactly. You can never be 100% sure. Nobody's ever 100% sure. And nobody, even in the conventional military, you go off of probabilities, right? And you go off of history and a whole lot of other variables, but you look at the totality of the picture and the profile, and you say, yeah, in all likelihood, this is the guy, is the right guy based on all this information we have. And we move forward with the plan. So could we have mistargeted him? No, we had the right target, we had the right location, we had the right individuals, but whether or not he's really the bad guy or not, nobody will know 100% for sure. But we have to go with the client who's investigated these people. They've been watching them, they're on their radar. And I tell you, the simple answer for me was this: like, look, these guys are being financed by the Muslim Brotherhood that's actually there building barracks for Al Qaeda. Right, so Al Qaeda, you have ACAP is what's called Al Qaeda Arabic Peninsula, ACAP. They're there. They're kind of like the action arm. You have the financiers, the Muslim Brotherhood. You've got this, but in this one case, this one particular guy, he was a political face for the political organization. It was kind of like the front for everything. I said, so the fact that he's getting money from the Muslim Brotherhood, the United States doesn't consider Muslim Brotherhood terrorists. Well, they did initially, and I said, I don't care what the United States thinks, because I wasn't working for the United States. I was working for this other country that says they are. Right, and so they're paying the check, and they're giving me the targeting packages, and we're now analyzing it, and we're executing based off of what the command, if you will, is directing us to do. Right, so there's a lot of that going back and forth. But anyways, that's coming out in probably October, November. But prior to that coming out, I'm cranking out my book. I'm going to get that out ahead. The reason I'm going to do that is because one, once the book is out, it's going to come out in a PDF copy first, then an audio book, and then a hard copy. But it'll be out there, it'll be disseminated. They'll get a copy of it as well. And basically what that does is, because with any interview that you do with journalists, look, we watch it happen to Trump all day long. They could easily skew everything, take sound bites, and before you know it, I look like the bad guy. And people are still thinking I'm a bad guy, but for sure I'll look like the bad guy. You're going to make sure that, and what I want to do is make sure that they've got the story that I've written, and they're using the words that I use in the book. Like, for example, I'm not using bombs, and I'm not using assassin. Okay, I'm using different words, and I expect the same. She didn't think it mattered. I go, no, it does matter, because the average guy out there, that's watching this, he's thinking those assassins and bombs. He doesn't distinguish, well, just because he's an assassin doesn't mean he's a bad guy. He just automatically thinks assassin, ninjas, freaking cold-blooded killers, and bombs, like little black bowling balls with a fuse coming out.
Yeah.
Right. So, so for clarity and for accuracy, I wanted to make sure we use the right information, the right words, so it paints the right picture. Right. So, anyways, that's that. So the book's going to be coming out. I'll let you know when it comes out. And you'll be on my Instagram, it'll be on my Facebook page, it'll be all over the place on my website. People will be able to download a copy of it and enjoy. So speaking of books, I'm actually writing 4 other books that are coming in behind this one. And so based on my life experiences since really 2012, because in 2012 I wrote American Badass, and that was going to be, I thought, the book of my life up to that point. And I thought pretty much that was the sunset too, right? Like nothing else cool is going to happen because, it's 2012, I'm retired, I wrote the book, did the TV shows, and, like, okay, and I'm just going to fade away. It's not until, it wasn't until that point, all of a sudden, more things started to happen. I was like, man, you can't make this up, right? And so before you know it, I found myself in different parts of the world doing different things like Yemen, for example. I think we've talked about some of my bodyguard experiences as well in one of the other shows. I don't believe we talked about this particular incident or time in my life where I was involved in something also kind of cool. So I thought, what I'm going to do is write it's going to be a series. If you want to count American Badass, it'll actually be a series of 6 books, but and I'm calling it the Badass series because you'll have the Yemen story coming up next, which I'll have that out soon. And then we're going to have the story that I'm going to talk about now, some bodyguard experiences, some other experiences with basically, if you will, I got to be careful, I'll use the wrong word, but moving or helping people back to freedom. Okay. And remember my lawyer said, what that's called, right? I go, what? It goes, human trafficking. I go, no. It's not the kind of movement I'm talking about. But anyways, and then the last book will be my operator's manual on how I do business in the world and in my life and stuff like that. So it'll be a total of 5 more books coming out, and I want to get them all out before December. That's the plan anyway. So
Hell yeah.
so today I was going to share with you, some of the the general highlights of the Singapore operation. And so a couple of years ago, a few years back, actually, I was invited to come to Singapore, and there was a very wealthy client there that was interested in having me come there and train his canine for him. Right. So how cool is that? So he's literally paying me to fly to his location in Singapore to train a dog. He had a German Shepherd. He's very proud of it. Very nice dog, very nice family. He was very wealthy, very nice guy. And I'm not going to go into names or anything like that to embarrass, shame him or his family or anything like that. But what ended up happening was I was going back and forth for a while, training dogs, training his dog, hanging out. And then one day towards the end of when I was complete with the dog, we were walking, and he's like, you still doing that security stuff? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, I got something maybe you can help me with. And I was like, okay. And what he told me was he was on Instagram. And anyways, on Instagram, he ended up meeting what he thought was a woman, right? Very attractive woman, blah, blah, blah. Now he's married, he's got kids. And that turned into some flirting, blah, 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 back and forth, and he admitted, he goes, yeah, dude, I'm just a dude, I was just flirting with her. But so what he didn't know was this person on the other end was not a woman. It was actually a syndicate. Okay. And they were Iranians tied to Turkey. And so what they did, they figured out what his wife's Instagram was. They contacted her and go, hey, we got some information that your husband's having an affair with this woman. Here's some pictures, here's some text messages, right? And they made sure they populated the messages with new pictures. And sorry about the noise. And so, they made it look pretty juicy was what they did. And they showed her some of the pictures. Go, we have the entire pack. We have a lot more information. If you want it, you're going to have to pay for it. And you'll have to fly one of us over there, and we'll hand deliver it all to you. And this is what we want in return. So of course she bought all into that, bought the tickets and everything. And guy shows up and he's so he goes to the baggage claim area, grabs his knife out of his suitcase, and he's had his pocket, walks up to her. She's waiting for him out in the reception area in the airport. And he basically puts a knife in her side and walks her to the ATM machine, tells her to start cleaning it out, get as much out as she can. She's wearing this $bazillion diamond watch. It's pretty high.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the holy shit, studded in diamonds. He helps himself to that. And then he also takes her cell phone from her and he leaves. And so she thinks, okay, well, that was scary. He's gone, but he actually wasn't gone. He never left, right? He stayed at a local hotel and went through a cell phone because she didn't put a passcode on it, right? Big mistake there. So he goes through her phone and realizes she's got another phone, and he's got all her kids' phone numbers, husband's phone number, client phone numbers, business phone numbers, her whole world and everybody, her entire network's on the phone. And so this guy's exploiting that. And then he shoots her another message that night. Said, hey, I need you to meet me at this corner tomorrow morning at this time. Don't bring nobody with you. Things are going to go bad if you do, blah, blah, blah. She meets him again.
What the fuck?
Fair enough. He robs her again. Right.
Dumb bitch.
This time it's in front of the ATM machine, and CCTV cameras capture it all. But this time he actually leaves and gets on the airplane. He's gone. So now she's compelled to, report it. So she goes to the police. They're like, well, we'll arrest the guy if he comes back, but we cannot have him extradited and bring him back, right? They're not going to do it. So she also had to tell her husband what happened, but it got worse because the reason it got worse is now this guy was back either in Iran, Russia, or Turkey. I know where he was traveling, and I'll tell you why I know. So he was messaging the kids, and he was holding the weapons up, and I'm going to do this to you. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill your family, this, that. And he was threatening the kids. Now, the kids were young, about, I think 10 and 13. Right. And so like, who is this guy threatening me? Call me by my name and that, And so this was scaring the father. Right. He's like, Jesus, man. And so when he's telling me the story, I said, you know what they're doing, right? I said, they're setting you up for the next hit. I said, that guy won't come back, but a surrogate will come back. And this time, it's going to be, they're going to escalate it a little bit more. They might actually target one of your kids. They might do something to scare the hell out of them in real life, let you know that they're here. And so he's like, yeah, I know. Right. So what ended up happening was he's like, well, can you take care of this problem for me? I said, well, yeah, can. Cost money, right? I mean, and so that's when everything started, was with that part. And so I ended up through some of my network, ended up getting a hold of a detective in Germany. Guy was prior military, but pretty good, a lot better than I ever thought he would be. So I told him what the plan was, what we're up against, and and here's the issue. So anyways, we started by phases. So I said, okay, phase one, we'll collect information, intelligence. We'll find out, we'll find them, and fix them. We'll find out where he lives, get more details on him. And we'll start with that. We'll come up with some pretty detailed information, and we'll present it to the client, show him that we know what we're doing, right? And so we had really good proof. In fact, we had proof. We had the guy driving down the road, and we had a picture of his license plates of him in the car from an actual CCTV camera on the streets.
Not nice.
Right, tied into it. So like I said, this detective was pretty good at it, right? We knew exactly where the guy lived, had his address, everything else that we needed to know. One thing we're pretty confident it was he was part of a syndicate. So, this is what these guys do. They get on the Instagram, these Facebook pages, pretend to be chicks. They come on to dudes, compromise themselves, especially married guys, and before you know it, they're in this maelstrom of, oh hell, what am I going to do now? They're threatening me, my family, they're going to expose me. And so they got you right kind of by the balls. And so this is word of the wise out there. You dudes are out there, and chicks that are, sending pics of your junk, you know, and doing stupid stuff like that, let you know it could come back to haunt you big time, like it did this guy. Um, so anyways, we started phase one. We go, okay, you know, here's the intel, here's the proof, we can do the job. I said, now there's the subsequent phases. I said, you don't get to know about those. I said, and the reason why is plausible deniability. And, you know, if we don't want you to know what we did, because if somehow it comes back to you, you know, basically everything's going to be compartmented. You know, you're gonna pay me. I'm gonna make this problem go away. I'm not gonna tell you how it's gonna go away or how I'm gonna deal with it. That's none of your business. You want the problem resolved, that's it. It's gonna cost you money. So here's the proof of this, and then we go to phase two. Um, so he's like, okay, you know, he had to. When I say he was very wealthy, he was very wealthy and very connected. His business was huge. It was massive, international. And last thing he needed was this kind of exposure, because, you know, when you're operating at that level and you're married, you got kids, you know, perceptions mean a lot, especially in business. You know, why do I want to do business with this guy? You know, he's a cheat, you know, or that perceived cheat. Not saying he's cheating, but he's a perceived cheat, you know, and all this weirdness is going on. He's compromised, and, you know, and now maybe we have to deal with these other people. Maybe they come after us, you know, who knows, right? So anyways, this was a problem for him and his business, but more particularly, he was afraid for his kids' lives, right? Which we should be. And I told him, I said, man, these guys got time. That's all they got is time. I said, they don't have to do nothing tomorrow or next week or next month or next year. You know, they've already got you on the radar, man. And all they do is just every now and then send a little threat, you know, to your kids and to you, you know, to remind you that they're there and they're coming. You just don't know when it's going to be or where it's going to be. You know, you might be going on another trip somewhere, and your kids and family are left behind and they're totally exposed, you know, and maybe they make an example out of one, you know, and how much money do you have? Are you willing to put into this thing to protect them? They know you have a lot of money. They know you do, and they're going to keep coming for it. And so I said, you can keep paying them lots of money, you know, until you're broke, or you can pay, you know, a little bit of money and make this problem go away, you know. And so you know, the planning in agreement with all that, you know, the plan forward. So there's a lot of issues you have to consider, right? Like, for example, going to a foreign country. You can't fly into a foreign country with guns and stuff in your suitcase or anything like that, right? And so, you know, you basically show up on a tourist passport, right? Hey, I'm just coming here to visit, you know, whether you're going to Iran or Turkey or Russia, wherever the hell you're going, because he traveled all over the place. You know, we found out that watch tracking him. He's in Russia doing a lot of stuff there, business. He's in Iran, he's in Turkey, you know, just moving around quite a bit. But we knew where he was based out of primarily, and we had a pretty good idea where we could intercept the guy, you know, and always being cognizant of the fact that he might be with a group, with a syndicate, you know, and he might have some other top cover and others security procedures in place. But and the guy even he actually got on Instagram, right? And he was actually wearing, no. We had a picture of him. We had actually have a picture of him on the street wearing this guy's wife's watch, right?
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, loaded with diamonds. Like, man, the guy's just wearing the watch out in the open, you know? And so probably hadn't been able to, you know, boost it yet or something. But honestly, I don't know how much the watch costs, but I would have to judge by the brand and the number of diamonds on it. It was probably $1 million watch easily, you know, easily, you know, and so, yeah, these guys, I mean, they live large, you know, and so that, you know, morphed into, okay, now we've, you know, we found them, we're going to fix them. And now we're going to, you know, in the military, find them, fix them, finish, no, find them, fix them, fight them, finish them, right? Those are your 4 tenets, right? So, you know, we found them, we fixed them, and now we've got to go deal with them, right? And get this problem over with. So that turned into you know, the planes, trains, and automobiles type scenarios, you know, traveling alone, not together, you know, using clandestine communications to communicate. So, all these things you have to think about is, can't be communicating on a phone. You have to be careful even with your applications, because maybe nobody's monitoring the application that you're using, or maybe they are. But the problem is down the road, if something happens, you get rolled up. Now they can go into, all the apps and start tracking messages and putting it all together. So really, you got to make sure you're not leaving any trace or tracks behind. And by the way, they can watch, monitor your WhatsApp. Okay. In fact, I know in Indonesia, you'll notice that sometimes on your WhatsApp you get this flashing bing bing. That's because they're interrogating your WhatsApp and some of your social media applications. I don't know if they can do that to Signal, but I would argue that they probably can.
Yeah.
Nothing's actually 100% secure, and they're not going to share everything what they can do, because that's the secret weapon, right? But you have to just assume all your communications are being monitored.
I always assume that. I always assume 100% of everything I use is being monitored.
Yeah, so that means you got to be able to communicate in code, words, brevity, and you actually have to start implementing tradecraft skills, right? In other words, at a certain time, certain place, you're gonna, there's going to be a dead drop at this location, certain window, recover that, and that'll give you instructions for your next movement. And so what that does is takes us off of electronic comms. Once we get this process started, now we're on basically, written comms, if you will, right? Messages and things like that. And even those things are encoded. There's ways to make them more cryptic. And there's other ways with your computers that you can actually do cryptic passes of information as well that are not easy to follow. There's a lot of stuff out there, the dark web, and ways to do this thing. So, basically that's the next phase, is before we even go to the country where the target's located, we already have to figure out our comms plan before we ever go into the country. We don't want to go in the country and get on comms, go, hey, I'm here, okay, I'm here too, no, it's like we already know we're gonna arrive at a certain time, on a certain day, certain window, at a certain location. That's where we're going to do the first brief encounter, or recover a dead drop, or whatever we have to do, however we're going to communicate, which is going to start the process. And what would we have to communicate? Well, honestly, if you're working in a two-man team, ideally you guys don't want to be together if you can help it. You don't want to be in the same hotel room. You don't want to be in the same location together. You want to basically be separate. So if you are under surveillance, nobody ties the two of you together. Okay. It's like, I never seen these two guys together, and hopefully they never pick up on your tradecraft, techniques. You go, yeah, they're exchanging information, or, hey, I just saw that guy put in place a dead drop, and they go and recover it, read it, and then put it back, or something like that. Right. So that also requires surveillance. So we know at a certain time, I'm going to place a dead drop. The recipient's already be pulling surveillance on the dead drop location, just to make sure it doesn't compromise, right? So you see, there's a lot of work to go scene, right? And a lot of spook stuff, but this is how you have to operate if you want to stay out of jail and stay out of the grave. And so a lot of that was implemented. I'll be talking about it in the book. I'll be very what's the word I'm looking for? I'm gonna be kind of what I'm gonna do is mine operational security, in that I might not get specific locations and things like that, and names and times, but the gist of it will be in there. You'll understand what's happened and when and where it was happening, in a roundabout way. So anyways, so it's pretty elaborate, right? So you go there, and then you still got to figure out, okay, what are we gonna do? How are we going to manage this situation so that this guy never harasses this other guy again and his family, right? Because there's really not a lot of evidence that it was him, because he's using a drop phone, right? Just throwaway phones and phone numbers, right? So it's hard to trace it back to one individual. These guys are pretty crafty. There's a lot of ways to do this stuff, right? So he's also using clandestine communications, and I thought it was pretty bold that he actually grabbed the knife out of his suitcase and did it in the airport under all the CCTV.
Yeah, that's wild.
He did. Pretty brazen, right? And so I figured he might need to get a little taste of his own medicine. And so that would be a nice wake up call for the organization he was working for. Is like, you can reach people, but so can we. We
Yeah.
can too, and so yeah, they'll have to harden up their security procedures as well, right? But anyways, I'm not going to go into what actually happened to the guy, but so let's just to kind of sum it all up. We traced him finally. Um, you know, dealt with the situation, and then and how does the client know that the problem was solved before he sends a lot of money? It's like, well, you know what? You can wait a while, see if
Yeah.
he contacts you, right? If nothing's happening, then it means it went away. And so then you can just go ahead and pay us, and should pay us anyways. In fact, he has to pay us anyways because we need an op fund up front just to,
Yeah.
right, and there's going to be money involved in that. So he's going to pay a percentage up front depending on what we think is the anticipated gross. Most likely, he'll pay us 30% plus, any pass-through costs and travel, et cetera, and then the balance is due when he's satisfied that the problem has gone away. And then the question is, well, what if he doesn't pay you? He just to screw you. Well, you got to remember who just did the work for him and what
Yeah.
this worker is capable of doing,
Yeah, I
right?
was about to say, what does the work entail? Yeah.
So, so do you want to, you really
You want
want
to fuck with them? Yeah.
do you really want to go there, right? Because, and not that I would do that, but that's kind of the leverage you have if they're inclined to believe that maybe it's not me, but maybe my cohorts are with me are probably not so understanding. Now you just basically just created the same problem again.
But but even better versed who now knows your backstory too. Like you
Yeah,
now know their intricacies. Yeah,
right.
no, it's
Yeah,
far more retarded to turn on you.
but I thought it was there was a lot. There's going to be a lot to the story.
Fuck yeah, that'd be a
A
great
lot
book.
of trade craft stuff, and close encounters of the worst kind, and you're always taking. There's always risk. Just there's sometimes you could just be doing everything properly, acting normal, and it's like, what, sir, could you please come over here? Like what? And before you know it, you get pulled over for something totally unrelated.
Yeah.
They can easily spin out of control into into a compromise. Um, so, like I ain't gonna lie, when I came home recently from I was flying back from Manila. I thought about it, I was like, man, for the first time, I'm actually flying west instead of east, and I had to go through Bangkok and then end up in London, and in London, flying over to Houston. And I thought about it. And so going back to the BBC documentary, they called me a couple of weeks later and go, hey, we got this great idea. Wouldn't it be cool if we could get one of the guys you targeted that survived and you guys sit across the table and talk about it, and we could do this in news interviews and kind of play everything up. And I thought, wait a minute. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And I thought about it, it's like, because
This is a hit.
I said, no, well, okay. So not only that, this guy, as far as I'm concerned, still is a terrorist. Okay. He's just happened to, he's just happened to make it away.
Yeah.
So I said, moreover, I said, now this guy knows that maybe I'm the guy to try to take him out.
Yeah.
What's going to keep him from setting me up at the airport, right? And
Yeah.
going to or from,
Yeah. Fuck that.
or going, hey, I want to file attempted murder charges.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't working I was working the capacity of a soldier, right? And so maybe nothing would come of that, but it could definitely ruin my day for a couple of years, right? So, and and so I thought, no, that's not a good idea. I said, I'm not setting myself up for failure like that, I said, no, it's not going to look good. You look at me, and here I am sitting across the table from this dude that's very geeky looking. He'll be wearing a suit, go, I won the Nobel Prize for being a peaceful guy. And they're gonna look at me going, look at this guy tried to take
Yeah.
me out. Like, no, wrong answer. You're the bad guy. I'm the good guy, and maybe we're wearing the wrong costumes, but see, perception is everything, right? People are not going to see it that way.
Yeah.
And they always think the bad guys look like me and the good guys are the innocent guys, right? And actually, it's the innocent guys, even the beta males that you got to look out for. They're the most dangerous people on the planet, and
weak men are bad men.
yeah. And so I said, no, I'm not going to set myself up for that. I said, in fact, just tell old boy that congratulations, he's one of the few guys that actually escaped, and and he can feel good about that. So he ain't
Yeah.
gotta worry about me. I'm out of this business anyways. And
Well,
but so as I'm going through London, as soon as I went through immigration, the the officer at the immigration says, "Okay, everybody else is passing through," and she looks at me and buzzers are going off, and she's like, "Okay, you need to go to down here to the end of the hallway, make a right, and there's a someone sitting at a desk there. You need to report to them." And so I'm like, "Oh, okay," like, "Oh, okay." Where's this going? And I show up and, um, "Excuse me, I'm supposed to report to you, and let me see your passport stuff." I'm like, "Here it is," and "Oh, okay, we're just going to reissue you tickets. That's all." I'm like, "Oh, that's all? Oh, okay, good." Right. So I take my ticket, whew. And then a little while later, I show up at the gate. It's time to board and swiping our tickets. Everybody's going through a nice, easy flow. I go through, all of a sudden, all the alarms and sirens go, wee,
uh,
wee, wee, and everybody's running over to see what the hell's going on. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, Jiminy, And I was trying to joke about it. Like, what did I do? Run the stop sign, And
yeah.
they're like looking at my ticket. I'm like, yeah, hold on for a second. And they look at me funny. Go, okay, yeah, you're good. Go ahead, go on. Oh,
What the fuck?
I'm thinking at any moment now I'm going to get rolled up. Something's,
Yeah.
and nothing's happening, right? So, but yeah, so I've always been a little paranoid. You could argue, well, why are you paranoid? You did nothing wrong. You're right. I didn't do nothing wrong. Look at how many people in the world don't do anything wrong and still end up jacked up and in jail and
Yes.
lose their lives, right? So, I love it when the lefties always say, well, if you didn't do anything wrong, nobody would, shut up. All right. So that's all I can say. Just shut up. All right.
Yeah.
You're living in a utopia. I'm living in the real world. And so I'm smart enough to know that you don't take nothing for granted. And security is number one, and yeah, you kind of live with a certain amount of paranoia, I'll call it vigilance, just because that's what's going to keep you out of a jam. And you got to have things like cover stories and cover for action. Why are you here? What are you doing? Oh, well, you have a good line, right? And so it's all part of the act, man, because that's what you're doing is acting, and so my life is kind of, it kind of goes into the shadows and he comes back into the daylight, and sometimes I'm back in the shadows and sometimes I'm back in the daylight, and it just seems like sometimes I just get pulled into the shadows all the time and doing really weird shit. Like, how did I end up in this mess?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm like, you can't even make this stuff up. I mean, I got stories that are gonna, I mean, literally, they're gonna make some hellacious books and probably some great movies.
Fuck yeah.
When I go into the details, and I'm not making it up. This is stuff that's actually happening to me, And I look back at my life and go, I just thought it was going to be over 2012 when I wrote American Badass, and that was it, And it's just now I'm going to another phase of my life, And even the stuff that we were talking about me doing before, I thought, okay, this is like another turn I wasn't ready for, and of course we talked about the road that I have to take at this point, but it's life's an adventure, man, and I'll say that, man. My life has been exciting, and it's been full of everything from horror and intrigue and espionage and fun and just living the whole 007 Jason Bourne life is like been. And I'm not looking for that. I don't want to do that, honestly. I don't want none of that anymore. I'm just happy living in Bali,
Yeah.
running my business, being there, with my family and just enjoying the,
That that's what I always tell people when they ask about you. I'm like, dude, Dale did it. I was like, he's in Delta. He's in OGA. Like he fucking ran the gamut. I was like, he's got a beautiful wife. He's got a canine training business, and he lives in paradise. Like Dale doesn't seek the shit out. And they're
I
like,
don't.
what? They're like, why is he still training? I'm like, that's Dale. Dale will train until he's dead. Like, what do you mean?
Well, I actually I was talking to somebody about that this morning about, a lot of guys that I know in the military, that were in the military with me, the units with me, I see them today and it's like, dude, what happened to you, man? You're a freaking train wreck. You let yourself go,
Yeah.
and if I was a stranger, you said I was in Delta Force, I was a Green Beret, I'd call you a liar. Like, what?
Yeah.
In my mind, the essence of who I was I am, is what got me to Delta Force. And Delta Force didn't create me. To
No,
me,
yeah,
they didn't create me, right? And so all they did is they polished me,
they
right?
they yeah.
Right. And so, but now that I know my heritage, where I've come from, I've always been proud of that. And I've always tried to live by that. So I tried to, even at the age of 60 years old, um, try to exemplify that. When people go, what did you do? You were in Delta? Yep. Man, you still look like you could be in Delta. And some people actually still think I'm in the military. I'm not, you know, but that's a good feeling when people look at you, go, man, you look pretty formidable. And I'm like, yeah, I am pretty formidable, because as of, 5 years ago, I was still downrange slinging lead and getting it with the bad guys, and I can physically and mentally and psychologically. But I've reached a point where, you know, uh, other things are my priority, not like my business, my wife and family, and just kind of like,
Sure.
really just kind of like living um, a healthy life and minimizing the risk of death. Um, but I still live by, the same principles and mindset that I always have. I still condition myself. I train every day. I go to the gym. My mindset is still the same. Sometimes I still go out and practice tactical skills and shooting and hone those. I'm always prepared to go to war. Always. I'm not a couch potato. I'm always prepared to go lead. And my physicality and my mentality, all of that will allow for that still at this age. And so that's kind of what I do, as well as coaching and mentoring for that purpose. I have a lot of clients that come to me and they're like, dude, how did you do so much? And how do you still do this? And oh, by the way, I forgot to mention. So my plan is, at the end of summer, roughly August, September, I plan on doing another 4-round professional boxing match at the age of 60. That's on my bucket list. However, the last couple of days, I've woke up with a really bad neck. I've gone to chiropractor, and I'm hoping there's nothing actually wrong with my cervical vertebrae, but
Mm-hmm.
hopefully it's just pinched nerves or something like that. But my goal is, and I've been training for it, is step back in the ring, do a 4-round match, probably in the light heavyweight division, and then the other thing I'm going to do in October, I'm going to get on stage in the master division and do another competitive bodybuilding show.
Fuck
So
yeah.
there are 2 things on my bucket list this year for the age of 60. And not that I have anything to prove to anybody out there. I'm just proving to myself that, I can just keep going and going. My philosophy in life, my training, everything is going to prove that at the age of 60, I'm still a force to be reckoned with,
Yeah.
levels. And my rule on the boxing, by the way, is pretty simple. It's like this. If you're 55 years and older, you can be whatever weight you want to be. Okay.
Mm.
If you're 54 and below, you've got to be within 10 pounds of my weight. So I'll fight a 2.2-year-old kid. As long as he's within 10 pounds of me, I'll go out there with him and I'll hand him his ass all day
Yeah.
long. And so bigger guys, I'm actually giving them a handicap. Hey, be whatever weight you want to be. In fact, you can be a big, huge, fat slob, 300 pounds, and sit on me, or you can, be this little lean machine too. It'll be for a good fight. It'll be 4 rounds. It's going to be stand-up boxing, and that's on my bucket list, man. So, like I said, hoping that my neck injury or whatever the hell I got going on is not something that's going to keep me out of it. I will definitely be fighting it, probably in Bali is where I'm going to do it. The reason why is it's not as regulated as it is here in the States.
Oh yeah.
Was a professional, and so there's, as a professional, I can't fight an amateur, not in the United States. Not that I want to fight an amateur, I want to fight a pro, but they might have to deviate from the rules a little bit. They might have to put me in, I don't know, headgear. I don't know, some kind of handicap for the other guy. I don't know. We'll figure that out when the time comes. But it's going to be easier for me to train over there. I've got some of my employees are boxers too, young guys or want to be boxers. They're pretty good. One of them is. They're going to be my sparring partners and working my corner. Maybe I probably don't need him because I plan on getting that fight over in about first 30 seconds.
Fuck yeah.
Won't
Fuck
be no
yeah.
time for corner work.
What what I said earlier, when I have to catch myself when I said, they'll stop training when he dies. It's kind of symbiotic. It's like, no, the halting of training kind of is death. And you and I have talked about this before. To stop moving, man, to stop pursuing a goal and perfecting it and polishing it and refining it, to me feels like death. I mean, I always talk about, man, the 2 years after I got into medical school and before I, moved home with my parents, I did nothing. Those are the most miserable years of my life.
Yeah.
There's such validation and, like, the spark of life exists in challenge, and challenging I have nothing to prove to anyone. I don't give a shit. Like, I there's nothing like just waking up and getting after it. It really does. It breathes sunlight, like, into the soil of life. Like, to just sit around,
Yeah.
that's death, man. Like, that's miserable.
Just sitting there languishing until you freaking die, or you languish,
Fucking
get remotivated. But by that time, how much damage have you
yeah,
done, or how many opportunities have you missed? By,
yeah,
so actually, one of the things I was telling my coaching clients this morning, man, you know, um, every minute of your life should be um, exploited for all you can get out of it. First of all, you can't look back. The past is the past. You can't unfuck that. It's done. So
yeah,
stop looking back. Stop worrying about the back. Stop bringing the past into the future. Stop bringing it to the present. You got drama with an ex-girlfriend, ex-wife, whatever. Leave it behind. Move on, man. Don't bring that into the present right now. And for sure, don't carry it to the future with you. Um, you take the presence for what it is because that's all you got. You don't, the future's not guaranteed. You don't know what it looks like. You can't wait until the future to go, okay, I'm gonna be happy in the future. You got to be happy now, right? So now is all that matters. The future, you can kind of plan for it. You should plan for it, but be prepared to deviate from the course, right? There's lots of things that are going to get in the way. But yeah, if it's like I told this guy this morning, I said, man, if you're on the computer or you're on your TV playing, or I don't even know the video games anymore, right? Freaking Call of Duty. I don't even know if that's the latest. All this shit, you're wasting time. You're wasting time. What are you getting out of that? Right? What's the ROI on that? Nothing. Self gratification. And if you're a family man, you're definitely wrong, because you should be putting your family's needs and needs up front, prioritizing it. So if you're not doing the best you can to be the best person you can be every day, then you're really neglecting your family. That's what you're doing. Okay, it's not just neglecting yourself; you're neglecting your family. So every day should be filled with you trying to be the best version of yourself, and whether it's personal development, professional development, even social development with your family, lifting them up and helping to grow them and develop them. It should be all those things together. And but as the leader, if you will, of the family, okay, and this is again, that concept is kind of like starting to fade away in our country, because everybody thinks that we're all equal, women are equal, and when they're not. But at least for me in Asia, we still women still abide by gender roles, and it works, right? Because it doesn't make a woman subservient to you. What it does is make a woman complement the marriage, the relationship, right? We have our roles, and so it's complementary, not adversarial. Here in the United States, marriages are adversarial. I can make as much money as you do. I make as much money as you. I work all day too. I do this all day, and so you should wash the dishes today. So they want this. Equity, equality thing, and you wonder why we have one of the largest divorce rates in the world. And then and ask yourself, man, why 80% of divorces are initiated by women, 90% by college educated women. So, and then 94% of the time, women are awarded everything. So what incentive is there for a man to get married in this country? There is zero incentive. Okay. But she would never do that to me. I would never do that to him. That's all bullshit. Well, wait till the lawyers get a hold and her friends get a hold of her. Oh yeah, everything to you and then some. They'll get you out out in the square, out there in the public square. So this is the mess that's happened in our country with feminism, and with the politics of today and everything that's happening today, which makes sense, because at the end of the day, if you want to invoke, Marxism and communism, the first thing you have to do is what? Destroy the
destroy the
family.
family.
Right, that's where we're at. Destroy the family, destroy religion. Start taking all those things away that are really the glue to a civil society. We start taking all that away. We start telling people there's you can be anything you want. You can identify as a toaster, and we have to respect that, or you're gonna get a $10,000 fine in Michigan, and be charged with a felony. Are you kidding me? This is where we are because this is an agenda, and and I would, again, no offense to the ladies out there that might be listening, but I think you would agree that what I'm saying is true. I mean, let's face it, if 80 to 90% of women initiate divorce and 94% of the time women get everything, do you
What
really
the
think,
fuck do I want? Yeah.
why would a man want to marry any American
None.
woman? Right. And so, so they've, and so the whole thing with feminism and equality and equity, which is all bullshit. It's all a lie anyways. Even when it comes down to pay gaps and stuff like that, it's all a bunch of crap. But anyways, here we are, so I'm talking about Singapore, and now I'm talking about, freaking divorce and custody and stuff like that. But yeah, it's don't sit around on your ass, don't waste your time, make yourself a better person, be sovereign, be prepared for hard times. Hard times are coming. I believe within the next 2 years, we're gonna go through some really hard times. And those, the old survival of the fittest is going to come to play here. Who's prepared, right? And who's got the right mindset? There's a study out that I forget what his name was, but he did a study, and he concluded that 80% of the population does not have the mental capacity, if you will, to stand up against what is obviously wrong and hurtful to them and their families, but they'll go along with the program anyways. 80% of people will not challenge authority, even though they know the authority is wrong. They'll go along with the program. That's some pretty scary numbers. If 8 out of 10 people are willing to go, like a Pied Piper and march right along, this is why the Germans, and the Jews, man, they just went along with the program, the Jews, oh yeah, and then the other side of it is they said, hey, well, it doesn't concern me. It's none of my business. And they let it go, until it did concern them. And it was like, well, where's my help at? Well,
Yeah.
this is where we're at. We're on the precipice of that. And so anyways, I ramble, but
No, so it's great, dude.
yeah, buckle up, hold on your hat, put down your cigar, because the ride is getting ready to go fast.
Get right with God. But yeah, man, it's Dale, as always, I appreciate it, dude. And yeah, I mean, I think the last episode we did with the bodyguard, I think that was probably the most viewed episode I'd done with you, and I imagine this one will get up there. People really like these stories, man. So I can only imagine that bodes well for the new book. So that'll be fucking dope. But guys, go check out Dale in the description. Please go follow him on Instagram. Well, you can't follow him on Twitter. Go to his website. Go grab his book. Support Dale. Don't be a fucking communist. And dude, till next time, Dale. Thank you so much, man. Much love, brother. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.